Time of resurrection is here at last, and all around the world people are celebrating Christ rising from the grave, showing us the power and love of God in this incredible feat. The Church of Christ is all over the world in its many forms, thanks to invasion, conversion, and missionaries. Roman Catholicism, Jehovah's Witnesses, the Church of England, Hillsong, Uniting Churches, and many, many more have been found in big cities and small hamlets, from London to Wellington, from the land of Canaan to the American Midwest, all of them declaring the name of Jesus, Yahweh, and the Holy Spirit. And yet, all of these places of worship still seem to fall short when it comes to understanding just how big God is. Since God isn't human, therefore doesn't operate on human scales, they can be forgiven for that. But they try to make him easier to understand by simplifying him, to the point where people looking at the church from the outside can't help but wonder, what is all the fuss about? In turn, that affects the way we see God, making him seem small and insignificant. As an amphibious lawyer once said, in Monetary Practice, remarkable books, the sun is simple, a sword is simple, a storm is simple. Behind every simple is a huge tale of complicated. In this video, I hope to show you how much this has been done and what we need to do in order to fully appreciate what this time of Easter really means. When we look for God, we tend to look in the Bible, the scriptures of the Christian faith. When looking for help, inspiration, or guidance, many modern Bibles, I included, have notes that guide us to appropriate passages that tell you what God thinks of it. However, without context, they can take us to different conclusions that aren't what God has in mind. It's like judging someone for not making the best decision because something went wrong or didn't happen. But that was the best decision they could have made in that current situation. Unless you know the situation that they were in, you have no idea what choices they actually had. I'm someone that believes in having many choices, but due to one thing and another, we say that we have no choice, because none of the other choices we have could have given a different result, could have given a better result for that matter. One of Jesus' many names is Wonderful Counselor, and any counsellor worth his practice looks at the situation and doesn't assume he knows the person until they tell him the problem. In Good Will Hunting, the great Robin Williams had a line that summed that up perfectly. I cannot do that line justice, so I'll leave a link to it in the description. When looking for what God does, what works he's done, the Bible gives us all manner of grand events that shows us what he is capable of, namely the flood, the 7 plagues, the virgin birth, the many miracles of Christ, and of course the resurrection itself. But how often do we see those things in the world around us today? How often do people rise from the dead and not get shot for being a zombie? How many girls give birth without sleeping with someone or being raped? Now, yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic at the moment, but if we say that this is the only time that God has acted since biblical times, then he's been sitting on his laurels for about 2,000 years or so. Even if we take every great plague and pandemic that's hit us in the past few centuries, like the bubonic plague, smallpox, Spanish flu, and the current COVID-19, it seems like being God is seasonal work. If we said all of God's work can be seen in the Bible, then that means there was not much to go on in the past 2 millennia. Anyone that has heard God's voice, felt his guiding hand, or has borne witness to his miracles, will tell you about them. And I can guarantee you'll be hard-pressed to find any reference to them in the pages of the Bible. If we wonder about how old the earth is, and therefore how old God is, the Bible gives us a dedicated timeline and more besides. Many people take that as his word and don't go beyond that. But to say the earth is only around 6,000 years old is, in my opinion, like saying that a cup of tea has gone stone cold in 3 minutes flat, when you've plain forgotten about it and have been watching the football. Another example is, you say you are a lightweight when you're stone cold drunk, when you're currently halfway through a 6-litre bag of goon and have had your whole flask of 90% moonshine in half an hour. In short, it's no as incredible as thinking of the hundreds of millions of years in the past where creatures have roamed the earth, creatures beyond our understanding. The fact that some trees have existed longer than the biblical timeline allows is quite something. The only tree in any other legend has lasted even half as long as that is the world tree from Norse mythology. And don't get me started on mountains. I'm a bit of a geology geek. So we can see going by the Bible already puts God in a box. But even if we turn to people who disregard the Bible entirely, we hit many problems. I once came across a video where an atheist was trying to disprove the existence of God by looking at his aspects and saying how they contradict each other. I'll do a video on that at some point, but I want to bring up one of the points he raised, which further proves my point. It is cherry-picking, I know, but it does emphasize one important thing. He says that if God is all-knowing, omniscient, then that means he knows the future. Therefore, free will is impossible. Going by the idea that God wants us to have free will, but it also is all-knowing. It's all too easy to play down the real meaning of omniscience. On the face of it, we see it as having a complete knowledge of every topic known to man. History, science, mathematics, geography, zoology, quantum physics, and much, much more. Making that person a must-have teammate on a pub quiz. On a more spiritual level, we say that God knows everything about us, and so can't be lied to. He knows the depths of our hearts, and therefore cannot be deceived. On a practical and jokey level, he knows what you do with your keys, and where the collection money is. But he's not bothering to tell us. All this is well and good. But if we take time into account, just time alone, then we are in a whole different ballpark. To say that there is only one future, is to say that no matter what, we have no free will. And that doesn't even take into account God. Disregard for the time. To bring free will into the argument, implies that there are multitudes of possible futures that could happen. To imply that further implies that there are many potential pasts, probable presents, and futures that never were. This is a lot of implication, and it's hard to wrap someone's head around. But this is summed up by the many worlds hypothesis in quantum theory, that many universes exist. And this can be further explained in Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials. Now that world, and every other universe, came about as a result of possibility. Take the example of tossing a coin. It can come down heads or tails, and we don't know before it lands which way it's going to fall. If it comes down heads, that means the possibility of its coming down tails has collapsed. Until then, the possibilities are equal. But on another world, it does come down tails. And when that happens, the two worlds split apart. I'm using the example of tossing a coin to make it clearer. In fact, these collapses happen at the level of elementary particles. But they happen just the same way. One moment, several things are possible. Next, only one happens. The rest don't exist, except that other worlds have sprung to being in which they did happen. That is mind-boggling. And whilst you may be thinking right now that I'm bringing a purely scientific thing into this concept isn't unknown to Christians. C.S. Lewis mentioned as much in the Chronicles of Narnia. I'm not going to give away too much of the plot, but basically, Lucy did something that changed her opinion of one of her friends that could affect her friendship with that friend forever. When she asks Aslan what difference that would have made, he says, "No one is told what would have happened." So it's well known that God knows what the future will bring, regardless of people's choices. It's quite mind-boggling, and in a way humbling, to know that God knows far more about what would have happened if things went differently. Stephen Fry once brought up the kill baby Hitler hypothesis. Basically, if someone went back in time and killed baby Hitler, what would have happened? He put the idea that someone else would have come up and took his place as Chancellor and then Führer, but didn't invoke the Nuremberg laws. So Jewish scientists who discovered the atomic bomb might not have been removed from Germany, meaning the Third Reich would have had access to nuclear weapons. That is a sobering thought. As I said, the very idea boggles the mind. And we haven't even covered all of it. Because life, one of the rarest things in the universe, exists on so many levels that we are barely noticeable in how broad it is. It can go from the smallest baby mouse to the largest bull elephant, from the mite, the tiniest living animal, to the biggest animal that ever lived, the blue whale. It goes even further, from the virus, tiny strands of DNA, to the homogeneous fungus, who can be measured in acres, in square miles. to go even further, and the really big, and famously like that, and the truly colossal scale that life lives on, takes us in one direction to the molecular level, the subatomic, and the quantum levels, and in the other direction, the geological, the celestial, and cosmic scales, taking everything that entails the idea that God is able to perceive things from the greatest level immeasurable to the tiniest things beyond understanding. Understand every single human from their daily actions to the depths of their hearts. Not just in this timeline, but across alternate timelines. And He's guiding us that way. God being omniscient is nowhere near as simple as one might think. Just that concept, seemingly simple at first, is in fact very, very complicated. And unlike the toad in Terry Pratchett's books, I'm not being paid. One aspect of God that we take for granted is that He is eternal. Being humans, we can, if we're very lucky, live for maybe 100 years or so. On a biblical time scale, 6,000 years, God's doing a lot better than us. But even that pales in comparison to geological time scale of hundreds of millions of years, or even the cosmic time scale suggested by astrophysicists, which is trillions of years. Due to the fact we delve into the Bible so much for our guidance, people think that God is only eternal as a mountain, vast, constant, and seemingly unmovable. This, however, isn't the case, because mountains not only have a limited size that can be explored by many generations and then lost interest, but also wear down over the years. God, however, exists on a novelty that completely defies the understanding of tourist and entertainment industries. All tourist sites and performers need to keep the interest in their work up to date to have any chance of working for the long haul. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter has a very loyal fan base, me included. But the Fantastic Beasts films, along with the tie-in media from J.K. Rowling and Pottermore, keeps the interest in the magical world high. Performers know that adding novelty to their act brings more people in and keep them interested. My brother and his friends made a name for themselves as a barbershop quartet whilst they were at school, specialising in the bare necessities. After one of singing that song, however, they eventually grew tired and moved on to other things. I myself have kept interest in my school performances by bringing new things to each performance, be it a new instrument, a new genre of music, a different take on a popular song, or an original composition. God is very much like that. We humans get bored very easily. God knows this and can always pull something new out of the bag and surprise us with it. He isn't a one-trick pony who constantly shows off that one trick to the point where we just think, oh, it's in again. He's a horse that will steal the show time and time again. He is constant. He lasts forever. But he also constantly surprises us in more ways than we can ever imagine. If I needed more reason to do this video, when I was looking for a song to play for the intro and outro music to emphasize how great and wonderful God is, I really struggled. Now, there are many, many songs out there about God, many of them focusing on his spiritual work, his love, the signs and revelations, and the crucifixion, particularly this end of the year. But very, very few of them focus on how big and how wonderful God is. I looked at My God is So Big. Our God is a great big God, and indescribable. I'd already used indescribable for another video that was Inhuman God. My God is So Big is very bouncy and very hard to smooth out without just grinding. Our God is a great big God, again, too bouncy. His love is higher than the height of the mountains was too repetitive. Same with How Great Is Our God. The only one that had the gravitas and the theme for this, that I could find at least, was a choral piece by Edward Elgar, which was far too complicated for my limited skill to play on the family piano. In the end, I had to partly compose my own song that carries the message. Pandering to the old reliable tropes are great and all, especially at this end of the year where we are contemplating the resurrection. But it does highlight how much we are missing how big God is. As someone that believes that music can't lie, I think this proves the point. We just really don't know how big God is. I get really passionate about this because how can we forget how big God is, how wonderful He is, how amazing He is for us? We ignore how He works today by saying it all links back to the Bible in every way, which gives God very little wiggle room. We ignore what He says nowadays by looking at the written words in a book older than most modern common languages. We ignore past works that He has done and left evidence for us to see for ourselves, and insist the complete history of the earth is in a book that says the earth is younger than this piece of flint. We downplay His knowledge and understanding by saying He knows one thing, that thing being all, but we fail to understand what that entails. We really struggle to get our heads around it. We say He is the same and unchanging, which sounds like the same chords, the same song being sung over and over again. But in fact, He can never stop amazing us, time and time again. We have a lot of songs to sing about Him when it comes to how He works in this world, how He shows Himself, especially at this time. But we don't sing anywhere near as much about how huge, how timeless and wonderful God is as Himself. And yet so many people say they know God. Sometimes the most humbling thing we can do in this case is admit we really don't know. That's a really hard thing to do. We are a proud people. But sometimes admitting that we don't know, or even that we're wrong, is the best form of worship we can give to God. By admitting, whilst we want to know Him, we really don't know Him at all. I've heard many preacher, minister, pastor and priest say that we need to let God into our lives. To me, after all that sounds like me topping up my glass of whiskey from this flask. But in actual fact, it's far more like trying to fit the world ocean into this shot glass. God is around us. He doesn't need to be let into our lives. We need to open ourselves up and let ourselves into Him. As my grandma once put it, we are mere drops in the ocean of God, and we need to let ourselves become a part of Him. Some of you may be wondering, why does such a vast ocean bother about such tiny drops like us? That will be the subject of next week's video. Got a whole list of things I want to do. I'm doing that next. If you want to stay up to date with it, by all means, keep an eye out for the next video. If you want to make your life easier, click subscribe and notification bell so you know when the next video lands. Also keep up to date with the next few weeks of videos. I have a whole series that really needs to come out quite quickly. If you have any suggestions for future videos or any scripture I should look at, by all means leave them in the comments below. Also, if you think you can come up with a song or know a song that might sum up this whole video, by all means mention that down in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you think people will be interested, by all means share it with them. Till then, all I can say is stay safe, happy Easter, and God's blessings be with you.